Hey guys, what's going on? It's John, and welcome to my Gamester81 show. This video, we're going to unbox and do a review over the new Atari Flashback 8 Gold HD Edition by AtGames. This just came out this holiday season, 2017, and I actually got this for Christmas for my wife. So I thought I'd do an unboxing and show you what the system's about. This is a plug and play, more or less, of the Atari 2600 system, which came out in 1977. It actually was supported for 15 years, up until about 1992. Sold over 30 million systems. It's a really great system. A lot of people think retro games, they think of NES, but there's a lot of great systems and games that came out prior to the NES, of course. And if it wasn't for the success of the Atari 2600, I firmly believe that we wouldn't see systems like the NES today, or even systems today. So it was really a pioneer as far as game systems go. This has 120 built-in games, and considering there was like 580 games total, it's about 1/5 of the whole collection. A lot of classics ones, including Golf, Kaboom, Millipede, Outlaw, Pitfall, to name a few, Warlords, which is great. So there's a lot of great games. Asteroids, which is I think most of you guys probably have heard of. So we'll do an unboxing and show you what's included. This makes it HD because it's got HDMI cables included. This is the first Flashback to do that. This is the 8th model. And one thing I can tell you off the bat they don't have, unfortunately, is a cartridge slot. So you can't play regular Atari 2600 games, unlike they did release a Sega Genesis plug and play called Flashback, as well as an HD. And that version, you can play Genesis carts. So it's kind of a bummer you can't play 2600 carts. And those are pretty cheap anyway. They're about $1 each, but some of them can go for quite a bit of money. So let's do an unboxing and take a closer look at the system itself. Thanks for watching. So here's a closer look at the box itself. Love the gold finish. It's kind of harder to see that Atari Flashback 8 Gold unless you get reflective there. You got the Pitfall advertisement here, of course. Space Invaders, Centipede, Pitfall, River Raid, Kaboom, Frogger, Millipede, highlighting some of the classic ones. 40th anniversary of the Atari 2600, same year that the original Star Wars came out, New Hope. Some other games. Okay, and many more. Let's open this up. You can see there, I got the nice Atari logo up front. Open it up. Now this retails for $80 US. You get the HDMI cable. Information. Here's a poster. Let's see here. Nice collector's poster, which is sweet. One really cool features about this, it does have 2 wireless controllers, a 720p HD output, and you can save, resume, and rewind games, which I'll show you how that works in a second. Very cool poster, and on the other side are the instructions. Okay. Pretty easy hookup, not too bad. Pretty standard. Here's the unit itself. Looks very similar to the other Atari Flashbacks. They've used the same casing. Here's a power. Here's a start, here's your difficulty settings and your select. Your power connection goes here. HDMI is on the side. It's pretty lightweight. Here's your 2 controllers. There are pin controller outputs here, so you can plug in regular controllers if you want, but it does come with 2 wireless. Here's your AC adapter, which is important. Here are the 2 controllers. It does not come with batteries, so you have to unscrew this and put the batteries in. I think they're either AA or AAA batteries, but almost very similar to the original standard Atari 2600 controllers back in the day. You get 2 of those. So let's power this thing on and take a closer look. So when you turn on the game, you have this menu. There's pretty easy to search for games. You can do it several ways. You can do recently played. You can do alphabetical. You can also do categories by Atari games or Activision games. It does show the box art for each game, which is nice. The controller is wireless, and they have improved it. I'm actually surprised how responsive it is. Before, in the previous Flashback games I've played, the wireless controllers haven't been really that responsive, but they've definitely improved that. I do wish that they showed the history of each game. They do show the instructions on how to play, which is nice, and with controller, joystick controller, and all that. But it'd been nice to show screenshots or maybe, drawings or history of some sort that maybe you could unlock. This is Centipede. This game definitely plays a lot better using a paddle controller opposed to the joystick controller. I believe that they have a package deal where you can purchase the Atari Flashback Gold with the paddle controllers too. However, you can purchase those separately, or if you have an original paddle controller, you can plug it into the system using the pin adapters up front with a controller adapter, which is nice. But definitely controls better with the paddle. A lot of these games I've heard of are classic. I think the selection games overall are really good. I think they've done a good job going through and selecting a lot of the great classic Atari 2600 games that many of us may have remembered. Some of these games haven't really aged as well. These are games I've recently played, just turned it on. But overall, I'm really impressed with the HD, even the sound. It's really clear sound for what it can be, being Atari 2600. Here's Pitfall. Hero. Let's check out Kaboom. This is another game that is recommended using the paddle controller. However, you can't play with a joystick. This is a game by Activision, and this game is so fun. The object of this game is basically not allow any of the bombs that this guy is going to do to drop. So you can kind of see that you can select your difficulty too as well, either through the joystick as well or on the system itself. You're supposed to catch each bomb, and it progressively gets more difficult, You see, I let one hit and I died. It's one of those games where you can also rewind. So there's a rewind button on the joystick and goes back 7 seconds, and it shows you kind of what you just did. You can't replay it from that point, but it goes back 7 seconds. I'm not quite sure what the benefit of that is. I don't know. I haven't really been able to figure out how to pause or save the games either. It's not included in the instruction manual if you can do it, although it is promoted that you can, so it's kind of odd. Some other games, Asteroids, classic. Here's Crystal Castles. This is a game that was based on an Atari arcade game, and the arcade game is a really fun game. It's almost like a Pac-Man, but it's done in an isometric kind of 3D environment. So you're this bear, I think it's Bentley Bear, and you're supposed to collect these dots and avoid these enemies. You can jump in this game and avoid the enemies. And you also put on a magic hat and become invisible for a while. I don't see the hat in this particular port. It's kind of a weird, it can show you how simplistic the graphics are for the Atari 2600, but for what they could do back then with the limitations of the cartridge, it's still pretty unbelievable what they could do. The arcade game is really fun. Kind of a trivia question later on for the Atari Jaguar. They released a game called Atari Karts, and Bentley Bear, who's a character in this game, is one of the playable characters in that for the Jaguar, and that was kind of a Mario Kart clone game. But that's, as far as I know, that's kind of the only other game that Bentley Bear appears in. I'm not quite sure what that thing is. And so you got all the dots, and now the level's done. You can reset, go back. I love the fact there's no load time at all with this, which is nice and convenient. Games like football and Dragster is always a fun one. Frontline, based on an arcade. Frogger. This is by Sega, or Gremlin, but Sega. Now here's this is interesting. This is not an Atari 2600 port. You can tell by the graphics, the colors are too bright. The music is missing also from this port, which the Frogger music, if you heard it, I'm sure you'd recognize it. So I'm not quite sure. This looks like more like the Atari 7800 port or maybe the Atari 5200 port, but it's definitely not the 2600. And they don't really promote that some of these games are more advanced games than the Atari 2600. That's kind of odd. You'd think they'd mention that. I know in previous flashbacks they've had games that have been a part of the 5200 line, so I'm not surprising here, but they should at least let you know. Because Frogger for the original 2600 is pretty basic. Here's Jungle Hunt, initially called Jungle King in the arcades. The reason they changed the name to Jungle Hunt is because I think they were sued by, I think they thought it was Tarzan. I think the company who owns Tarzan, the rights to Tarzan, thought it was too similar. So they initially was like kind of a Tarzan character. So they put a hat on him, clothes, and they called it Jungle Hunt. There's 3 different stages in this game. This is the first one where you have these vines. There's like a swimming with gators. There's a boulder one, and there's a 4th screen is like you're supposed to jump platform to platform and save the woman, your girlfriend or wife, whatever, from the savages. Here's a swimming scene. Actually a pretty decent port from the arcade. It's got all the scenes. It's quite interesting enough. Here's Pitfall, which is a game that I can put Activision on the map. 1982. You can rewind it. That shows you how that works. Still can't figure out how to pause the game. But Pitfall, if you haven't played it, it's a fun platformer. You don't have weapons. You're just supposed to avoid items and enemies. Okay, the next game I'll show you is Space Invaders. Again, this is not the Atari 2600 port of Space Invaders. It looks too much like the arcade. This is probably more like the 5200 or 7800 version of Space Invaders, but still a classic and iconic and good port nonetheless of Space Invaders, and I'm actually glad this bigger port is on here. So in conclusion, I think the Atari Flashback 8 HD is worth definitely checking out. I believe $80 is a really steep price tag, to be honest. I think it was priced around $50 to $60. That'd probably be more appropriate. Certainly the games on here are a great selection of games. They're not all Atari 2600 games. A lot of the games, including Tempest, I noticed you can't play without the actual paddle controller, so you do need to get a controller. Here's Tempest, for example. But I do recommend it if you're a fan of Atari 2600. I do think that there are games that you can play and have nostalgia for. Now, if you've never played the Atari 2600, is this a system worth checking out? Maybe, if the price is right. I think overall, AtGames did a good job as far as HD. Definitely looks good. The controllers are definitely a step up from the past wireless controllers. So they've done some really good things here. I do wish there was a cartridge slot so you can play games and whatnot. That's not including this. So for $80, I think it's kind of steep. That's my opinion. I do appreciate you guys subscribing. I appreciate you guys following and liking this video, leaving a comment. Let me know what you guys think. We'll see you guys soon. Take care and game on.